There's a quiet moment many of us experience after 60. You're standing in front of your closet, looking at a blouse you've owned for years, maybe even decades, and you suddenly think, this doesn't feel like me anymore. Not because you've lost your style, but because you've outgrown the version of yourself who wore it. Aging isn't about disappearing, it's about refining, shedding the roles, the performances, the shoulds, and beginning to dress not for approval, but for truth, comfort, confidence. In this video, we're not just talking about clothes, we're talking about identity, about all the ways we've learned to dress to hide, to shrink, to play small, and what happens when we stop. So let's walk through 9 types of blouses many women over 60 are still holding onto, not because they love them, but because they once meant something. It's time to let them go, with grace, and make space for a wardrobe that reflects who you've become. You ready? Blouse number 1. The tight button-up that reminds you who you used to be. There's a blouse you've probably kept far longer than you care to admit. It's tucked neatly in the back of your wardrobe, barely worn in years, but you can't seem to let it go. It's that structured button-up blouse. Crisp collar, narrow waist, sleeves that never quite let you stretch. Maybe it once made you feel powerful. The kind of blouse you wore to meetings, to interviews, to mornings when the world felt like something you had to conquer. You wore it when you needed to be sharp, to command respect, to prove yourself. But now, slipping into it feels like stepping into someone else's expectations. The fabric is stiff, the buttons strain in places that didn't used to be a problem, and when you catch yourself in the mirror, you don't just see the blouse, you see a version of yourself you're no longer trying to be. That's not failure, that's growth. As women, we're often taught to dress for approval. For decades, our clothes were armor. Polished, tight, controlled. But what happens when the fight changes? When what you need isn't protection, but peace? Your body isn't the same, and it's not supposed to be. The curve of your back, the softness at your waist, the slower rhythm of your breath, they tell a story of a life lived, of battles fought, of joy earned. So why wear something that asks you to shrink? Trade that tight button-up for something that meets you where you are now, not who you were 20 years ago. Try soft bamboo cotton, a relaxed silhouette, gentle seams that move with you, not against you. Look for a blouse that lets your skin breathe and your spirit rise. This isn't about giving up polish, it's about releasing pressure. Because elegance isn't about lines pressed into fabric. It's about how freely you move through the world. And maybe, just maybe, the most powerful thing you can wear now is something that finally lets you exhale. Blouse number 2, the cold shoulder that left you chilly in more ways than one. Once upon a time, baring your shoulders felt bold, a quiet rebellion wrapped in rayon or polyester. The cold shoulder blouse came with a promise, playful, flirty, a little unexpected. It showed just enough skin to whisper confidence without ever shouting. And for a while, maybe it did just that. But lately, that same blouse doesn't feel cheeky. It feels drafty. And not just on your skin, but in your spirit. You put it on and something feels off. Like the moment you slip into it, it's trying to recreate a version of you that doesn't quite fit anymore. One who needed to prove she was still youthful, still seen, still keeping up. But here's the thing, your worth was never in your shoulders, and it certainly isn't in how much skin they show. The truth is, fashion is often louder than it needs to be, especially for women over 60. It tells us to stay trendy, when what we really want is to feel at home in our clothes. The cold shoulder blouse, it's often cut in clingy fabric that shows every line we've earned. It slips and sags, never quite staying in place. And the worst part, it doesn't offer warmth, not to your body and not to your sense of self. What if instead you dress not to attract attention, but to honor yourself? Trade that cold shoulder for warmth, literally and emotionally. Try soft sleeves that brush the elbow, or a dolman sleeve that drapes gently over the arm. Seek out fabrics that feel like kindness on your skin, cotton modal, silky bamboo, or gentle knits that carry softness like a second language. This isn't about hiding. It's about choosing what feels like you, not what fashion magazines said you should wear in 2017. Because the strongest presence in any room doesn't need to bare skin to be noticed. She just needs to walk in feeling like herself. Blouse number 3, the loud print that wears you instead. You know the one, that blouse in your closet that seems to shout the moment you put it on. Big, bold patterns, loud colors, swirls, or animal prints that practically jump off the fabric. It's not just a piece of clothing, it's a declaration. Once upon a time, that might have felt empowering, a way to take up space, to command attention. Maybe you wore it to remind the world you were still here, still vibrant, still visible, but lately, when you slip it on, does it still feel like you? Or does it feel like you're performing someone else's energy? Let me ask you, are you wearing that loud print because it reflects your personality? Or because you feel like you have to compete to be seen? Is it amplifying your spirit, or is it covering it up? The truth is, many women over 60 feel invisible in today's world. And in that invisibility, we sometimes overcompensate. We turn up the volume, not with our voices, but with our wardrobes. According to a 2020 study by the American Association of Retired Persons, ARP, titled Mirror/Mirror, ARP survey of women's reflections on beauty, age, and media, 69% of women over 60 said they feel misrepresented or ignored by the fashion industry. That's not a small number. It's nearly 7 out of 10 of us. Left out of the narrative, the catalogs, the commercials, so we reach for what demands attention, even if it no longer speaks to our truth. Here's the shift. You don't need to wear something loud to be heard. You don't need to drown in a print just to prove you're alive. Instead, try choosing prints that reflect your presence, not shout over it. Subtle earth tones, watercolor florals, gentle geometrics that flow rather than fight. Let the softness of the pattern elevate the strength of your presence. Because you are not fading, you are refining. And as you let go of clothes that shout, you create space for those that speak gently and truthfully. Just like you. Now, let's move to a blouse that might seem harmless at first, but beneath its delicate fabric lies something far more fragile: your sense of confidence. Blouse number 4, the see-through trap that tricks you into shrinking. At first glance, it looks delicate, feminine, soft. A sheer blouse, maybe lace-trimmed or made of gauzy fabric, it whispers elegance. But sometimes it also whispers doubt. You put it on and feel exposed, not in a bold, empowering way, but in a quiet, unsettling one. The fabric shows everything: the outline of your bra, the softness of your arms, the lines of your body. And suddenly, you find yourself adjusting, pulling, layering, covering. Not because you want to, but because you feel like you should. Let me ask you this. When did getting dressed stop being about self-expression and start being about self-protection? When did you start shrinking inside your clothes instead of standing tall in them? You see, sheer blouses can be beautiful, but only if you feel beautiful in them. And many women don't. In fact, a 2022 survey by the International Council on Active Aging, ICA, found that nearly 65% of women over 60 feel pressure to dress younger. Not to celebrate themselves, but to avoid being labeled as old. This pressure often drives us to wear pieces that are trendy but uncomfortable, pretty but impractical. Sheer blouses among them. But here's the thing. Confidence doesn't come from how much you show. It comes from how much you own who you are. Instead of reaching for that see-through blouse that leaves you second-guessing yourself, try something that honors your comfort and your beauty. A silky cotton tunic, a flowy chiffon top with an opaque lining, a blouse that skims your body, not clings to it, one that keeps you cool without making you feel vulnerable. Wear something that lets you breathe, not brace. Because the older we get, the less we should have to hide in order to feel seen. And that's not about modesty. It's about boundaries. It's about reclaiming the right to choose what feels good on your skin and what doesn't. So the next time you try on that sheer blouse and feel like you're disappearing, ask yourself, do I really want to be more visible or just more real? Let's move on to a blouse that may surprise you, not because of what it shows, but because of how tightly it holds on. Blouse number 5, the clingy knit that follows you too closely. It's soft, it stretches, it promises comfort. And yet the moment you slip it on, you feel watched, exposed, judged, but only by yourself. The clingy knit blouse is a shapeshifter. What once felt flattering now feels like it's mapping every curve, tracing every line, revealing things you'd rather keep to yourself. You turn in the mirror, sideways, arms raised, suck in, and then you exhale. Not because you're relaxed, but because you're resigned. Maybe I'll just throw a jacket over it. Maybe it'll look better if I stand up straight. Sound familiar? These are the clothes that make you negotiate with your own body. They offer stretch but demand permission, as if you owe the world a smoother version of yourself just to wear something soft. But here's the truth. You don't have to apologize for how your body lives now. You've walked through decades of change. You've earned every curve, every softness, every shift. Your body is not a before and after photo. It's a living archive, so why wear something that makes you feel like you need to hide inside it? Instead, try fabrics that flow, not follow. A loose weave cotton, a relaxed fit blouse with a slight drape, a breathable modal blend that doesn't chase every movement. Look for structure at the neckline or sleeve, a little intention in the shape without the pressure to reveal, because style should never feel like surveillance. It should feel like freedom. The most flattering thing you can wear isn't something tight. It's something that respects your space. So next time you hold up that knit blouse and feel that old tug of insecurity, ask yourself, is this hugging me or holding me back? Let's keep going, because there's one more blouse that might be living in your closet right now. It looks familiar, friendly, even comforting. But sometimes comfort comes at a cost. Next up, blouse number 6. The faded favorite that's fading you too. Blouse number 6, the faded favorite that's fading you too. You know the one, it's been with you for years, maybe decades, soft as a whisper, perfectly worn in. A color that used to glow against your skin but now feels a little dull. It was your go-to, your comfort zone, your safety net on days when nothing else felt right. And yet lately something's shifted. You put it on and instead of feeling held, you feel hidden. It blends into the background, so do you. What was once a favorite has quietly become a habit. You wear it not because it sparks joy, but because it asks nothing of you. No decisions, no risk, no mirror time. Just throw it on and go. But here's a gentle question. Is this blouse comforting you, or keeping you from becoming the woman you're still meant to be? We often cling to familiar clothes like we cling to familiar stories, even when they no longer reflect who we are. That faded blouse might be carrying memories, yes, but it might also be carrying a version of you that no longer fits. And don't get me wrong, softness matters, so does ease, but you deserve comfort without invisibility. Sometimes letting go of a garment is the first step in reclaiming your place in the room. You don't need neon or sequins to be seen, but you do need to feel alive in your clothes. Color, texture, light. A blouse that doesn't just sit on your skin but lifts you, even a little. So maybe it's time to retire that old favorite, not with sadness, but with gratitude. Thank it for the years it carried you, and then reach for something that helps you show up, not just slip by, because the most powerful reinvention doesn't always come with a makeover. Sometimes it starts with choosing a new favorite, one that reflects not who you were, but who you're ready to become. Let's move gently forward, because next up is a blouse that promises excitement, but sometimes delivers a storm. Blouse number 7, the washed-out neutral that was never meant for you. A soft beige, a muted top, maybe that dusty gray pink they call mauve. The kind of blouse that's inoffensive, polite, blends in. You bought it because someone, maybe a salesperson, maybe a magazine, said it was a classic. Or maybe it was on sale and you thought, well, it's neutral, I can wear it with anything. And yet every time you put it on, you feel a little smaller. That blouse doesn't flatter you, it fades you. It pulls the light from your skin, flattens your features, dulls your energy. You glance in the mirror and think, where did I go? Here's the truth no one says out loud. Not every neutral is neutral for you. Our skin tones shift as we age. We lose some of the contrast we once had. What worked at 35 might wash us out at 65. And those pale, dusty colors that go with everything, they might be draining the very life from your look. But here's the good news. You don't need to swing to neon or flashy trends to feel alive again. Try replacing that washed-out blouse with something richer. A soft sage green, a deep plum, a twilight blue. Colors that still feel grounded but offer warmth and presence. Earth tones with soul, pastels with pigment, jewel tones with depth. And if you love neutrals, try warmer ones. Creams, soft caramels, gentle olives. Colors that glow instead of ghost, because let's be honest, you've lived too much, grown too far, and loved too deeply to be wearing something that hides you. Your clothing doesn't just cover your body, it carries your energy. And you deserve to wear something that reflects the light still burning in you. Let's leave behind the blouses that whisper, "Don't look at me." And get ready, because the next one, it might look elegant, but underneath, it tells a very different story. Blouse number 8. The elegant blouse that feels like armor. Beautiful, no doubt about it. Silky, structured. Maybe it has delicate pleats or pearl buttons. The kind of blouse people compliment. Elegant, they say, so refined. You wear it to dinners, to weddings, to the events where you're expected to show up polished. You reach for it on days when you feel unsure or vulnerable. Because that blouse doesn't just look elegant, it makes you feel protected. But have you ever noticed how you carry yourself differently in it? A little stiffer, a little more careful, like you're afraid to crease it or show too much of yourself. That blouse, in all its elegance, can become a kind of armor. A beautiful barrier between you and the world. It says, "Don't worry, I've got it together." Even when you don't, and let's be honest, sometimes we dress not to express ourselves, but to hide, to hold it all in, to create a version of ourselves that looks more composed than we feel. But the truth is, you no longer need to earn your place in a room through polish or perfection. You've lived enough, survived enough, to know that true elegance has nothing to do with silk and buttons. It's in your ease, your quiet confidence, your laughter lines, your posture, your presence. So maybe it's time to put down the armor. Not forever, not for every occasion, but enough to remind yourself that you can be seen as you are. Soft edges and all. Choose instead a blouse that feels like a second skin. That lets your shoulders relax, your belly expand when you laugh, your breath flow freely. Choose fabrics that move with your stories, not against them. Shapes that hold you without hardening you, because the world doesn't need a perfect image of you. It needs the real you. Gentle, strong, human, and sometimes the most powerful outfit is the one that makes you feel like you've finally taken off the mask. So ask yourself, is this blouse protecting you, or is it keeping you hidden? And now that we've unpacked all 9, it's time to step back and reflect on what these blouses were really hiding and what they've helped you reclaim. So, how many of these blouses are still hanging in your closet? Maybe just one, maybe 5, maybe all 8. Let me be clear, this isn't about shame, it's about release, because every item of clothing you let go of frees you from an outdated version of yourself. That tight button-up, it told the world you were competent, but it never let you breathe. That stiff, elegant blouse, it earned compliments, but at the cost of your comfort. You've earned the right to feel at ease in your own skin and your own clothes, to stop dressing for invisibility or for approval and start dressing for freedom. And no, this doesn't mean dressing young. It means dressing true. True to the woman you've become, true to the life you've lived, true to the softness, the power, and the presence that only time can give. So the next time you open your closet, ask, is this blouse serving the woman I am today? Or the one I used to be? And if the answer is no, you know what to do.